Assalamualaikum. Greetings. This is like, the worst shift this time after lunch, and keeping you all awake before you discuss the whole exciting field of AI. It's going to be a little bit of a task, but I will try. When Kamar suggested a few titles, I said, which one should I choose? There were about 4 or 5. And I asked my very good friend, my shagird, Amir Pracha. So I said, Amir, these are the 2 topics. Now, which one should I choose? So Amir suggested that I should go with breaking barriers and transforming teams. I said to him, will this keep them awake? He said, most likely, because everybody is really interested in knowing how to transform teams. There's no debate about wanting team excellence. Everybody would agree to that, but it is how to transform teams. So I'm here not to present any textbook or charts, but really take this opportunity to share with you my journey and how I did it. There are no right or wrong answers. Everybody has a way. And I want to be very authentic and open about my 4 decades in the corporate world. Breaking barriers is something I never thought of. It never came to me till very late in my career. And why? Because I was always centered on a mission. I was always centered on my passion. And when I started my career, as they say, or journey, as I would like to say, in 1983 with Unilever, breaking barriers, was not really even talked about. But what is this about breaking, and especially with women, breaking barriers? I don't know why it's with women, but it's there. So I think it all starts with this, with your mindset. If you really get very bothered about structure, process, gender, then I think you are stuck with barriers. But if you are centered on a mission, if you are centered on your passion, and if you are hungry to learn and to absorb, there are no barriers. There are no limits. And often it's easier said than done. Hunger to learn is not that easy because we have so many preconceptions. And to most things, we will say, I know, I did, we have the answer. I think you have to park all that. When I first started, it was in market research. In Unilever, nobody would look at market research as such, if you are in market research. Why? It's where the big boys and boys only at that time were with brands. You didn't do consumer research. You didn't do panels. You didn't read what others are talking about you. You were building brands. But I think my start point was consumer understanding. That's what consumer research did for me. It opened my mind. So when I would sit in meetings and challenge what the big marketing teams were talking about, first it was like, no, this can't be. I don't think you understand. I understand because this is what customers and consumers are saying. So, you've got to have an open mind to absorb feedback, and you'll be surprised what you hear. Any excellence in teamwork and for yourself starts, I think, with having that learning capacity. What is transformation? Transformation is about learning. If you cannot learn, you cannot transform. It was a taboo in marketing for women to even come near to be a brand manager. It may look like for you all Not really. Today, look at the kind of women walking around in Unilever. Pretty smart and high up, managing at the executive level. But at that time, 84, 85, 86, there was a complete barrier. Women don't come into marketing. They can be a bit in HR, they can be in research, but marketing, no way. Why? Oh, they don't stay, they leave. Myths, preconceptions. So I decided after 3 years of doing consumer research, this is not what my life or education is all about. I was quite captured by being a brand manager, and I was quite fascinated. So I put a milestone for myself. Either I'm going to get into marketing or I'm going to maybe then find something else. I didn't go to BU, I didn't go to LSE to really just do research. So that milestone, I decided, not the company. I didn't wait for bosses. And you always have to have mentors. Without mentors, you are just on a solo flight. One chairman at Unilever at that time took the bets on me and moved me from research to be the brand manager of Surf. Why I'm going back so early in my career is to say, you have to take a long view. Life is not about, a year, 2 years, 3 years. Today's generation gets impatient. You've got to have that strategic patience and a long view. At that time, for me, to become brand manager Surf was heresy. They said she's going to mess it up. I did mess up some parts, though. And in my first role, I did have failure. I launched a brand which did not work. So I did those kind of things. But without that failure, I would not have been able to go forward. Till today, because of that, there are 2 learnings I have. Promote, mentor, coach people to be better than yourself. Take bets on them. And second, make sure you know the nitty-gritty of your business. Every nitty-gritty. People think, you shouldn't be so controlling. It's not about controlling. It's about knowledge. It's about knowing every element of your brand. And that's what I did. The respect and credibility comes from knowledge. Knowledge is that power. And there was no looking back. We did some crazy things with Surf. We had a fabulous competitor to fight. We would work the night through. I had sales teams which would, come up with the most innovative ideas. And at that time, again, there was a myth. Women do not cross beyond a certain level. So it's not about women. It's about your expertise. It's about your knowledge. And it's about building teams. This has been my passion. I don't think I've done everything right in building teams, no. But I think there is no question. Today, when I sit here, stand here, whatever, and I see Shazia having become the CEO of Unilever, Amir Paracha leading, Junaid Murtuza in L'Oreal, I am so proud of this legacy. These are the people who worked so closely with me. And to have that kind of a talent pipe, that is what team building is all about. So how do we go about this? Everybody agrees you need this excellence, but how do you do it? I think there are some very fundamental dimensions to this. The first dimension is about recognizing your internal and external stakeholders. Most of us are so internally inclined to just keep looking at our business and ourselves. I think we have to get an outside in, into our business, into our brands, into the whole organization. And then we may get surprises. As a CEO, when I did the first customer survey for Unilever, this was 2001 when I became the CEO, we went to external stakeholders. We went to the government, Islamabad, everywhere, customers, distributors. And lo and behold, what did they say? Arrogant. Unilever is arrogant. Unilever, you just can't talk to them because they already know everything. They're not listening. When this came before us, we were in total shock and dismay. For me, the learning was nothing personal, but I said, exactly in my tenure, I must overturn all this. It should become the most preferred employer and most preferred organization in Pakistan. So I took it as a job to be done. And often, companies do not give enough attention and organizations to getting this outside in. And when you get that, you'll be surprised at the data. You will be surprised at the feedback. And that becomes actually your charter, the job you have to do. So the job is really to integrate a value chain. It is to integrate different stakeholders. Often it is said, if we take these decisions, our shareholder will be hurt. I think that's a thing of the past. You have to integrate your internal, external stakeholders, and there has to be a benefit across the chain. And when that happens, you transform teams. And there is no such thing as, and how do you do that? You've got to really understand their needs. You've got to understand their concerns, truly. And you've got to plan actions to address those. But if you're going to be in a bubble, which mostly we try to take stakeholders who are internal, then I think you leave a big segment out. And that is not the integrated value chain that you create. So the primary job has to be led from the top, and that is the CEO's job. And we did this to such great extent in that time. For communities, we said water, health, and education are the 3 areas we are going to drive. Because sustainable growth is built on this integrated value chain. For sustainable growth, you need your stakeholders to be committed. You need your stakeholders to take pride in the organization. And there has to be, and when we discussed this, these 3 came as the most important areas for Pakistan. Education, health, and water. Water was intrinsic to every product that Unilever makes. Just for you all to know, without water, you cannot have any products in Unilever. Everything needs water. So it was natural, whether we went to Thar, whether we did drip irrigation, and all the educational institutions. I remember at that time we did a survey, and Telenor was the most preferred organization. And to me, it was like, why is Unilever not the most preferred organization? So we had to put up a whole team in process at our business schools, at our universities, to really communicate Unilever. It's about communication. And that's what teams have to do. And today, with this whole digital area, communication is so instantaneous. We don't need to put up so many things that at that time we needed. So I think the whole digital transformation is so central to leadership, to building teams, and to getting the outcomes. So what are the golden rules? I think there are 7, 8 golden rules that I would like to leave you all to think about in terms of how we break barriers, how we find excellent teamwork. First, I think it is about courage. It is about integrity of purpose. You've got to have the courage to say no. And the best of people I know have had issues having the courage to say no. And you have that courage when you have that governance and that integrity. This is absolutely at the heart of everything. Can I wake up in the morning and look at you and say what I have to say? Be it very nicely, or sometimes not so nicely. So, very, very important. And sometimes I would struggle with cynics, because whatever you did, they would say, it's not going to work. Whatever you... So, I grappled with that. I said, there are these cynics and they don't want this kind of growth. And they're anyway going to say no to me. What do I do? One of the seminars or trainings we went, it was in Switzerland, I think, somewhere. And there was a coach. So I asked the coach, I said, you know, I'm trying so hard. And these people are so cynical all the time. They are rejecting every platform, da, 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 da. So he said to me, very calmly, and this has stayed with me forever. He said, you will always have cynics. They're not going to go away because they are wired that way neurologically, and you're not going to change them. What you have to learn is how to manage them. And the only way you can manage them is to really put them to work and make them focus on a project. Forget about vision. They will never share your vision. They will never share your passion. They are made that way. But what they will do for their self-esteem is they will give you results. They are very good at that. It was a real nugget. And believe me, it worked. Because I then made it, because I would also like to have people who all shared my vision and my passion. Easy. But then, when I got, but what that was doing was, everybody is not necessarily aligned then to the agenda. They're not aligned. You don't get commitment, and you cannot transform teams without commitment. You cannot. So, I did a mix, and I learned from there how to put up diverse teams. Diverse is not about gender, please. It's about background, education, personality, values, everything. People with those who had this problem about always being introverted or cynical or whatever. And it started to work because they were absolutely focused on the project. They were focused on the job that had to be done, the mission that had to be accomplished. So a diverse team is very, very important. All of you mostly here are also marketeers, so you know what a brand mix is. There is such a thing as a people mix also. So it's very, very important. Then, third, it's about communication. I'll tell you the most time-consuming thing is this. Then I've done about, I don't know, 18, 20 years of CEO jobs between L'Oreal and Unilever. The most thankless job is the CEO job, of course, but it takes up maximum time for communication. People, I think, do not communicate enough. You've got to sit with your teams, and at times you've got to really take your time in order to understand them, listen to them, and then share your vision, your passion, your project, or whatever. But that is so key. And communication unlocks excellence. It unlocks productivity. And we have to ask ourselves, do we do transactional communication? Have you finished your task for today? Or do we really do a relationship-building communication? Because team transformation is about relationships. It's about clarity of purpose. I can tell you a lot of people come to me and they say, we are not sure. I don't know where we are going. But didn't we talk about this? No, they haven't absorbed it. So clarity of goals, clarity of purpose, clarity of vision is the first subject. And don't take it for granted. There'll be a lot of people around you who still won't know what it is all about. What is my role? What am I doing? But didn't I explain that to you? No, obviously not sufficiently. When every member of that team knows their role and they know what they have to, and their responsibility, then you get that kind of productivity. When we were a company with just 20 people maybe at L'Oreal, or 25, very few, we were having lots of these kind of issues even then. Every year for 10 years there, in January, we used to do what we called the Growth Day. It's my best example that I can share with you. No rocket science, very simple. Everybody in the company, whether we were then from 20 became 100 or whatever, every function. So it would start with me leading, obviously, from the top. You can't hide corners. And the objectives for the year would be very clearly spelled out. Mine was usually one sentence. Get to 1 billion, or 3 words. Get to 20, or whatever. Everybody remembered that that was the key mantra for that year. So whether you are a distributor, whether you are a customer, whether you are a shareholder, whether you are an agency, this year, L'Oreal has to get to be 1 billion. And then every function would present. Why? Because you don't want compartmentalized communication. You don't want silos. So interdependency is so key to team transformation. My destiny has to be linked with the destiny of everybody. And reward has to be likewise linked. So interdependency and linking of reward, absolutely key to performance. So we used to have a full day where we would call an inspirational speaker also. Every member of the, every functional head, brand head would present. So there was cross-functional communication, cross-functional interdependency. Everybody's outcome was linked. The outcomes have to be linked, and outcomes are measurable. So, you know, we've got to move from intuition and gut to data. So, very important, intuition and gut, but how do we move to data? And I think the session which follows should illuminate a lot of that. How do we move? And then the role modeling behavior really starts from the top. Teams can't operate without that. So being engaged, I've been through a generation where the HR director would walk down the corridor and not have eye contact with anybody. I mean, absolutely, it's like a red flag. You've got to be accessible. You cannot, there is no way you will empower your teams and you will charge your teams if you are not visible, if you are not role modeling, if you are not coaching. I think coaching is so key to building relationships. Training everybody can do. You can go to the best institutes, you can read textbooks, but coaching, lead by example. And that is what then, and give space for failure. If you do not give space for failure, you will not get the sustained growth. It's very well said by many people, but practicing it is different. Who wouldn't agree with it? But the point is, do we practice it? Or we learn to practice it? Everything doesn't drop, you know, like the apple did to Newton, but we learn, we become aware, and then we grow. And last but not least, it's about authenticity. We are who we are. So, yes, all of us have some edges which, is this working? Hello? Yeah. So all of us have some edges which can be rough, which can be abrasive. That's okay. We learn how to manage, but we don't give up who we are. And often I find a lot of so-called diplomatic behavior really confuses people. I've had people coming to, my own staff coming to me and saying, I don't know how I'm doing. Why don't you know? Haven't it been discussed? We don't tell people what we have to tell them. Of course, there's a way. There is a respect. But you have to be honest. You've got to be truthful. Are you really putting your weight in the team? Everybody should put his or her weight. Otherwise, contribution can't come. Everybody should support each other's strengths. Otherwise, there's firefighting. Otherwise, there's a blame game. So if you're not pulling your weight, and if you are not really supporting your strengths, that is where the firefighting happens. So being authentic, being to the person and to the teams is absolutely key. So what does success look like? What is this team transformation all about? I think it starts with breaking barriers. It starts with challenging myths. Why? Why is it that women can't come into marketing? That's not a myth for now, of course, but I'm just saying. Why can't a woman be a CEO? In 2001, everybody said, oh my God, you know, this has happened, what will happen? So I'm saying it is not something so, well, it's happened now, so it's good. The idea is how many more can become CEOs of these big organizations? They can. After all, there was Shazia who led Unilever. Now we have Amir, and who knows next. So therefore, I think challenging myths, asking how and why is so important. And that is when transformation happens. Learning, absorbing, acknowledging, experiencing failure, and learning from that failure. Without that, it doesn't happen. So, no, that's okay. I was just going to, sorry. Thank you. Thank you. Hello. Hello, yeah. That's all right. I'll just hang loose here. So, you know, so, and then I remember in 2009 when we were establishing L'Oreal, common wisdom. What are you doing wasting your time with L'Oreal? I mean, the world economy is collapsing, companies are closing down. Who wants beauty in Pakistan? I mean, 2008 I joined L'Oreal and was working on a business plan to establish the company and the business and operations in Pakistan. Common wisdom among very senior people. Bibi, you're wasting your time. This is not going to happen. Everything around you is in a mess. The country is politically in a mess, economically always in a mess, nothing new. You know, banks in New York are collapsing or whatever. What did I stay centered on? Yes? Anybody? Beyond conviction? Yes, the streets of Pakistan. I was walking the bazaars in Pakistan, and when I walked the bazaars in Pakistan, it was very clear to me, women, consumers, the Pakistani consumer loves to look good, to take care. Each have their own definition. They dress well. They are very conscious of the outward brand values. And I always cite this. It's about kajal, it could be a paranda, that's beauty. You know they've been inducted into beauty, whether it is henna. The start has happened. So I remember walking in Anarkali, I can never forget that, and one of my bosses from Paris was there. And he said, women are so conscious. I didn't need conviction, I observed. And I said, there is no beauty brand in Pakistan. There is space to launch a beauty brand. And the world's foremost beauty brand, if I may say, is L'Oreal. And that's what we brought into Pakistan. So yes, conviction came through observation, through walking the streets and taking the bets. Because when people said, how sure are you? This is the worst question, let me tell you. Because when you ask somebody how sure you are not going to get innovation. Nobody can be sure. There will always be the bets that you take. And that bet is important. And then you, of course, have to have data to back all that. So I'm not going to say there's no data needed. Of course you need it. But you've got to take the bets. And with people and with teams, you've got to take that bets. Everybody is not going to do what is to be done. But do you see that spark? Can you ignite that spark? Yes, I can be very demanding, and some of you know that, and you have stories about it. But then, people have reached those levels when you demand. I'd rather be with a demanding boss than a boss who's saying, that's good enough. It's never good enough for me. Never. And some of you who have worked with me know that. And some, of course, enjoy, and some drop off, I think, a few drop off. Not to worry. So there are many stories, of course. We won't go into those today, at least. So, you know, but this is what transforming teams is all about. This is real life. This is the practical part of team magic. And we cannot do without it. So that's the breaking of barriers, not becoming CEO. It is about that courage of conviction, observation, and that passion, a mission. So I want to end on the final note. I think I have always been driven by a mission. And that is why, whether it's a good boss, bad boss, good times, economic downturn, we cope with it. We have to find ourselves finding solutions. There'll always be a zigzag. Are we afraid of zigzags? No, I don't want this kind of a steep curve. And, you know, there are curves, there are bends, and we have to navigate. That's the magic of life, and not just work, life. So, mission is what drives me. Thank you all.